Hello YouTube, Captain Darren here. Today we have the students from Chapultepec, the Secundaria School here in San Luis Potosi. Today is their interview day for a class project and they will be interviewing me. The students that will be interviewing me today is Diego and Flores.
We are here talking to Captain Darren. And we are going to ask him some questions about his job. Let me introduce myself. My name is Rodrigo Flores, and my partner, Diego Sosa.
Hey there.
We're going to start with the first question.
So tell me, why did you decide to become a pilot?
When I was young, like at your age, my parents took me to the air show and we watched the Blue Angels, the Thunderbirds. Those are the aerobatic demonstration teams. And also, I built plastic model airplanes about the same size as this airplane here, same size. And then as I got older into my teenage years, I decided to fly remote control airplanes. Are you familiar with the remote control airplanes? Where the airplane actually has a motor and it's actually flying in the air by remote control. And then after that, I decided to join the Navy because my father was also in the Navy, and while he was serving in the Navy, he was like what they call a flight attendant. He was like a steward for the Pacific Fleet.
Do you consider this a well-paid job?
I would say when I first started as the first officer in the regional airlines, it's a decent amount of money, but what I would like to say is you start at a low price, a low pay, what is called salary, and then after the second year it goes up incrementally. But once you get more experience and then you become a captain with more responsibilities, then the money is more as you progress in your aviation career. So yeah, it's adequate now that I'm now a captain, and I live here in San Luis Potosi.
Okay, great.
So it's a good work.
Yeah, I really enjoy it.
Well, have you ever experienced any difficult while flying?
Yes, the difficulties such as weather-related delays. We're looking at maybe thunderstorms, low ceilings. That low ceilings is like when the clouds appear low. So when you're trying to land the airplane, you can't see the runway until you get to a certain altitude. Fog hinders your visibility, and sometimes we have medical emergencies. Maybe a person fainted in the airplane, or they have a heart problem. I've experienced several of those emergencies. Drunk passengers. There's times where there's unruly passengers that cause a threat to my flight attendant, my flight crew, and it's my responsibility for their safety. So sometimes I would have to call the security or the police to pull them away from the airplane. So those are some of the what you call difficulties of flying. Other than that, I have a lot of experience, and I can handle any emergencies that happens while I'm flying.
Is it hard to become a pilot then?
Well, if you're motivated and dedicated, you'll achieve your goals. The best thing to think about is take little small steps and achieve those goals, like becoming a private pilot. You have to study, and there will be many challenges that you will be facing, but you'll overcome it. Just have a positive mindset.
So, do you really enjoy working as a pilot?
I really enjoy working as a pilot because you meet a lot of people you become friends with, and you also learn from them. Some might be even better pilots than you are, and I like to train and teach my techniques when I'm flying. And besides, it's a passion. The best part about the passion, I love flying the airplanes and I get paid for it.
Well, I think that's great. You like your job and all that. So, are you planning to retire soon?
My current age is 50 years old, and I don't think I'll be able to retire yet. As long as I can hold my medical certificate and enjoy flying and I'm healthy, yeah, not yet to retire, but maybe 15 more years, because the mandatory retirement age for the pilots that fly the commercial airlines is 65 years old. So I still have 15 more years to go.
And when did you start flying?
Back in 1987 in high school in Jacksonville, Florida, I took a private pilot lessons, maybe 3 of them, and that's when I started to fly. But I didn't finish, maybe 3 lessons.
Okay. Really interesting. Well, do you remember your first experience as a pilot?
The first experience as a pilot, remember I told you that I stopped flying during high school? Fast forward now in 1999 in Fort Lauderdale, Florida at the airport called Hollywood North Perry Airport, I went on my solo flight. Solo flight means that you're flying the airplane by yourself and you do takeoff and landings in the pattern. That's the most exciting experience. If you looked over to the right, you don't have a flight instructor, you're by yourself. That's the most memorable part of my time, was learning to fly and flying by myself.
So that was a cool experience. And what's your position?
I'm currently a captain with Mesa Airlines, and I've been working with Mesa Airlines for 6 years, and I plan on staying with that company until any other opportunities open for me, and perhaps I can move on to the major airlines. Major airlines they fly bigger aircraft, maybe like a Boeing 737 you may have heard of, or even the Airbus.
For the last question, what do you need to become a pilot? Or what kind of knowledge is required to have?
Well, to become a pilot, that's a very big, broad question, and I got notes about that. The first thing is, do you really want to be a pilot? Maybe the first time you go up in an airplane and you may feel a little bit disoriented, maybe you feel sick, that maybe you want to vomit, but you'll learn to adapt. My first recommendation is go to your local airport, maybe like in San Luis Potosi, and find a flight school and go up with a flight instructor. The flight instructor will take off the airplane and they'll give you the controls, and where you can manipulate the controls and get the feel of how flying sensation is. But to answer your question, what kind of knowledge? I could give you a brief description. I mean, I got a lot of notes here that I wrote to go over, but I'm just going to briefly say this. First, try the discovery flight. That's again like fly for 1 hour with the instructor, and also consider about a college degree. Maybe, I'm not sure with San Luis Potosi, but in the United States there's certain colleges that have college aviation programs, and so you will learn how to fly at the same time you're also studying for an education. Number 1 here is to apply for a student pilot certificate, and you must be 16 years old and be fluent in English. How old are you now, Flores?
I'm 12 years old.
12 years old. And Diego?
I'm also 12.
So you guys continue to study your English if you want to be a pilot. But number 1, like I said, student pilot certificate, you got to be 16 years old. Number 2, you need to get a medical certificate. The aviation medical examiner will ask you questions about your health history and evaluate things such as your eyesight and your hearing and any kind of coordination. That AME, they call it the aviation medical examiner, must certify that you are fit to fly. To get your private pilot license, you have to be 17 years old and have at least a 3rd class medical certificate. There are some training that you need to complete, such as the ground training from a certified flight instructor. Some of the topics that they cover in the ground training are principles of aerodynamics, there's stall recovery techniques, radio communication, navigation using the visual flight rules, that's VFR. The instructor must endorse you as being ready to take the knowledge exam. Written knowledge exam, you have to score at least a 70%, and with your flight time to be a private pilot, you have to be logged about 35 to 40 hours of flight time. And once you have that completed, then if your flight instructor feels that you're ready to fly and take the exam, there's what they call is known as a check ride. It's the practical flying test, and that's administered by the FAA. When you take that exam, they're going to ask you oral questions. They're going to ask you questions about the airplane, and then you'll actually do the flying. The flying portions, when you get your private pilot license, is roughly about 4 hours. Once you get your private pilot license, now I'm just going to take you through the steps to becoming an airline pilot, okay? So first you get your private pilot license. Number 2, you get your instrument rating. Have you heard of that instrument rating before?
No.
No? Instrument rating, it gives you the ability to fly through clouds, fog, rain, and poor conditions like that. And you're not looking outside. Now you're relying on the instruments inside the cockpit. The next step is to get your multi-engine rating. And the multi-engine rating, what it allows you to do is fly an airplane. You get an endorsement from your instructor. Fly an airplane like this. This is the Piper Seminole. This airplane right here, November 2931 Victor, this is the first airplane that I flew when I got qualified as a certified flight instructor. And that was located in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Okay, once you get your multi-engine rating, the next step is now getting your commercial pilot license. Do you know how old you need to be a commercial pilot? No?
No idea. No idea.
So 16 when you can solo, right? 16 years old? 17 when you get your private pilot license, right? So what do you think commercial pilot certificate is?
Like 20?
No, lower.
18?
18. You must be 18 years old to be a licensed private pilot and hold a second-class medical and have your instrument rating and complete the ground training. Once you have your commercial pilot license, that's going to allow you to work for money. Now you can become a banner tow, you can fly skydivers, you can do aerial mapping, and there's other jobs that you can to work for. And the reason you're picking up these jobs, or even become a flight instructor to teach people how to fly, you need to make hours. You need to build hours. And once you have the required hours, which is 1,500 hours, then you can apply for what they call it an ATP. The ATP stands for the Airline Transportation Pilot Certificate. Now that's the highest certificate that you can achieve as a pilot. Do you know how old you need to be to have an ATP?
20?
Higher.
Higher? 25?
Lower.
Lower? I don't know.
Okay.
I really don't know.
You have to be at least 23 years old.
We really appreciate your time, Captain Darren. Thank you very much for letting us do the interview.
You're welcome, and thank you for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to interview for your class project. I really enjoyed it.
My name is Rodrigo Flores, and my partner.
La regaste, tenías que apuntar a Darren.
We really appreciate your time, Captain Darren.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And thank you for letting us do the interview.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Otra vez. And have a commercial pilot certificate with an instrument rating and a first class medical certificate.
Great.
He needs to go to the bathroom.
I'm 12 years old.
12 years old? How old are you, Diego?
I'm almost 13, but I'm also 12.
12 and 13.